Well, thanks for being here, and I'm just going to say a couple of things about bioconjugate chemistry then and now. It's been a pleasure to be associated with this. The impact factor is up to 4.584, give or take, and we're very proud of that. Very good number for a journal in this field. And for those of you who don't know, and there's maybe one or two who don't, up here, okay. It's very loud right behind me, but you can't hear it, right? What is this stuff? And it's about joining things, a biologically active molecule joined to something, maybe another one or maybe some sort of other payload. And the consequence of bioconjugate chemistry is often something like this, where you make an interesting molecule with a system that builds up in a tumor in a preclinical study. So we've got a couple of mice here, and obviously you know where the tumor is. It expresses a certain receptor, and that receptor looks like this, and it binds that little probe, and it does a Michael addition when it binds the probe, so the probe stays stuck. So this is the kind of chemistry that attracts me to this field, is how to do that inside a living system. Now let's think back a little bit to where we were when we started the journal. Bioconjugate chemistry really was all about conjugation. So there was a big conjugate and a little bio, and people were making reagents to cross-link proteins. Here's one that was around. This is from a review published in 1990, and proteins at that time looked like this. This is a protein. They didn't have structures or anything, at least we weren't considering that. As time went on, the bio got bigger and bigger, and so now unnatural amino acids are incorporated into proteins using the cell's genetic machinery, or often some modified genetic machinery, and then conjugation reactions are caused to happen, for example, by the click reaction on these unnatural side chains. So bio has gotten a lot bigger over the years. Another thing in the early 90s, polyethylene glycol. We published many, many papers on polymer conjugated proteins. One issue that you run into when you make something artificial, be it a nanoparticle, a liposome, a protein, or whatever, is that sometimes these things want to stick to each other. And so the 90s were a decade of putting things on proteins, for example, to make them not stick to each other. Polyethylene glycol is a nice example of that. Nowadays, I think we're leaning the other way. We have tags, and we're trying to make proteins stick to something. So instead of antibodies and antigens, we have all sorts of other ideas about how things should associate. I like this one, genetically encoded peptides that bind specifically fluorescent nanoparticles. And here's always a good one, the nickel NTA system with histidine tagged proteins is now a very nice example that binds these with subnanomolar affinity, and this will allow many of us to do the kind of experiments we wanted to do with the old system but couldn't because of affinity. And then here's another one, the tags, the SNAP tags. You can make a protein that accepts some little reagent that has a probe on it. So I think now we're looking more at things making things stick to each other. And so what are we looking for in the future? Well, there's one constant that hasn't changed. It was true in the 90s and it's true today, and that is the delivery of bioconjugates to targets. It's something that maybe we'll always struggle with, I don't know, because we can make things in a test tube, we can treat cells in culture with them and everything is wonderful, and they go into an animal model and everything is far less than wonderful. And so there is still a challenge for the future. Some changes for the future. We're going to see more and more modified protein expression systems to make these conjugates, and we're going to see more and more surprises. Bioconjugate chemistry is a very empirical science, and I've always been surprised by what other people have come up with, things that my chemistry and biochemistry professors would have said, oh well, that'll never work. And of course now it's routine and you can buy it from the drugstore, FDA approved. So surprises are really the thing I'm looking forward to in the future. And I think with that I will thank everyone who stopped by and all the authors and reviewers for doing what's in the journal.